Hey, this is Brendan Allen from Comiccon.com. Today we're sitting here. Joining me is Jeremy Haun, and we're going to be talking about the new release coming from Image Comics of Haunthology. Trade paperback drops from Image on May 3rd. It's going to be $17. The book is 28 short stories and vignettes that were written during the COVID lockdown. The way Image describes it says, whether exploring a claustrophobic old house full of nefarious entities or the heavy thoughts one has during the pending end of the world, this very personal project was written and drawn entirely during the COVID lockdowns. Hey Jeremy, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good, man. Thanks for having me.
This book, it's beautiful. I got this cover. I don't know what covers Image is going to do, but this is kind of the aged cover, and then you had a newer looking cover. It's the 28 short stories. Most of them are about 4 or 5 pages. Some of them are a single page. I think you said one of them is about 14 pages, but most of them are out in that spot of 4 or 5 pages.
Right.
Um, what are some of the benefits and challenges of doing such short form versus long form?
Um, you know, I always encourage people whenever they're starting out to try different page lengths. I think that if you can tell a whole story in a single page, there's strength to that. We all want to tell really, really long form things, but I like the experimentation of trying to convey feeling, emotion, connection in as little as one page. And this was the perfect spot for that.
Right on. I think my favorite story in the entire book is the importance of making lists. It is one page, and
Right.
if you're not paying attention, you miss the twist. And the twist is it's hilarious, but it's also really really dark. So that's one of the things about this book is it's super grim because you can tell that some of it's coming from a really dark place or whatever, but there's always this little like humor that comes through. So was that planned or does it just naturally play that way?
I just think it's very me. The whole thing is sort of I don't know, my interests, my worldview, all distilled down into this pure comic form. My favorite stories are ones that start out as one thing, but then you sort of get other aspects because life is about balance. You know, something can be tragic in a moment, but then you laugh about it a little bit, or have these moments of levity, and I needed to do that. I mean, look, I made this project during the toughest time in almost all of our lives. It's this shared terrible experience that sort of changed the structure of our lives and worlds forever. And I think if you go too grim, too dark during a time like that, I don't know. It wouldn't work. I needed to laugh a little bit. I needed to, I wanted to look. You want to make people like laugh a little bit, cry a little bit, think a little bit. If you could hit all of those, you sort of win.
Well, and there are several stories that do that, and you talked about like the laugh at the end. The other story that I really really enjoy is "I Will Do Dark Things," and if that wasn't set up the exact way that was in the book, you had read a little bit, you get a feel for it, and it's almost in the middle,
Mhm.
and then you don't get the joke until you turn the page. And if it had been facing pages, it wouldn't have been
Right.
nearly as effective. So, did when you wrote this, were they in the order that's in the book, or did you arrange them later?
Um, some are very much in the order that they are done. There's a few that we kind of shifted around, sort of for the reasons that you're talking about. Like I really, like I wanted to kind of break up the moments. There were these so many of the moments in it, are dealing with loss or pain, anger, or fear. But I needed something occasionally that kind of broke up that tension. That's one of the strengths. I worked with my editor on the project, Joel Enos, who I've worked with for a decade now, nearly, on the beauty and on the realm and so many projects. We had a lot of conversations about the flow of the story. The way you wanted to manipulate the audience sounds so manipulative, but you wanted to make people sort of feel a thing, but then be able to take a breath before you went back off onto some dark path.
Right on. It's It's presented in black and white format, and I know that you wrote it, you penciled it, and you inked it. Is there a reason why you chose to go black and white? I think black and white is highly effective in horror, but is there a reason why you chose not to do color for this one?
Um, I started out doing black and white comics, and so much of the way that I always think about my art is as black and white art. It's at the you know I've been very fortunate to work with amazing colorists, but I just have such a love for black and white art. My sons right now are they read a lot of American comics too, but we've together, the three of us, really gotten into different manga. My
Hmm,
oldest son is 18, and he's finishing up Berserk right now, and we're kind of sharing that, and everything from like my younger son was really into like One Piece, and now we're all kind of reading some Chainsaw Man stuff, and
nice.
uh, black and white has such a purity to it. There's such an intentionality. If I'm looking at something and I'm saying I have to convey, you know, horror without being able to use red, well, that's a really interesting challenge. And
Hmm,
I I wanted everything to be on that page um, using traditional ink techniques. So that was important to me.
right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Another thing I want to talk about a little bit is there is a through line, and it's subtle. It comes in, and then you see it again for the next or the first time. The next time it comes up, and you go, "Oh, I remember that from before." Was that always planned, or like were you starting to get into these because you were drawing every day and things? You were starting to get into it, and you're like, you know what? I liked that idea. Let me visit that again. Or is it something that just kind of came together?
You know, the th- when comics shut down, when we went pencils down, none of us knew exactly how long that process was going to be or what it was going to be. For me, doing these short stories, kind of, without too much overstating, they sort of saved me. Like they kept me focused, they kept me sane, they kept me doing creative things during a dark time. The first couple of stories were just me having fun and kind of entertaining myself. From there, probably by the third story, maybe even as early as the second, I understood that I was building something that was playing to the larger theme throughout my work. There's stuff that I built into the realm and the Red Mother, and more recently into the approach. It's kind of my cosmic horror pantheon, my mythos. And I wanted to play with that a little bit in this. I wanted to have things that were nods to stories that I've told before, or things that
Hmm.
I'm going to be telling. There's a story right now that I've been writing over, well, hmm, since the first of the year, just kind of building on, and it has so many things from Haunthology that I'm pulling back in. So it's kind of little nods to the larger universe that I'm building, I guess.
Right on. Right on. And then the other thing, you and I, we spoke at Planet Comic Con and we talked a little bit before we started recording here. This is obviously intensely personal. You've drawn yourself into these stories, and you said that it's based off of different feelings you were having in different days. It's intensely personal. You said that it was a form of therapy for you during the COVID lockdowns. What does it feel like to share that with your readers?
It's pretty, it's pretty raw in places. You know, I love personal stories. I think we've all had things in our lives that as creatives, that we want to be able to talk about on the page. Um, you know, Whether it's Scotty Young doing Middle West, or even stuff like blankets, where you get these deeply personal views of people's lives. For me, I wanted to share those things, those feelings, but I needed to do it through genre stuff. Like, I think telling something that is too real sort of sometimes um, is maybe too raw, too hard. But I
Mhm.
think if you tell it through these vignettes, these looks into alien, alien apocalypses or various things, you know, that's really effective. And for me, telling these personal stories, they were healing. I am um, I'm better for having done these, and I think that it is scary sharing them with my audience and hope, will they get it? Will they understand? But I think, over the past few months, getting Haunthology in people's hands and having people, come up to me at shows and say, this story really affected me like this,
Mhm.
um, means a lot.
And I can tell you that reading it, several times, I found, myself, like, connecting with you. I'm here and you're, thousands of miles away, and I'm sitting there reading the book, and there is a connection there because, these feelings are very real, and, you've presented them in a way that is very relatable, to a lot of readers. Um I just it's such a great book. I don't wanna spoil anything about it because talking about any of these stories, because they're so short, talking about any of these stories, it feels like you're giving away something. So, I don't wanna talk about what the through line is or what the punchline is in my 2
Right.
favorite stories or whatever because, it's just but, I was sitting there reading, I showed it to my kids. I've got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. My 7-year-old saw my favorite and was just like, "That is the greatest thing ever." So, you've touched a family here in California. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So so the trade paperback, we just have a few minutes here left here. The trade paperback is going to be available in a couple weeks, May 3rd, for $17. You can still find the hardcover online in a few different places for $50. It is worth every penny of the $50, in my opinion. But if you want to wait a little bit, a couple weeks, you can get it for 17 from Image. Is there any parting last shots you want to get out there to the viewers about the book?
This project, as we've kind of said, it was incredibly important to me, and it really got me through a tough time. I wanted to, we did it initially as a Kickstarter project. A lot of that was just due to the fact that we didn't know what comics were doing when I started this, what they were going to be. We're working hard to bounce back. Partnering with Image to do the trade paperback was a really fantastic thing for me. I started it out at Image. Every chance I get to come back like this is a fantastic thing. So yeah, if you're wanting if you're just wanting the comic experience, pick up the trade. It's 100 pages of stories. If you want a little bit more, a little, the hardcover's oversized. It has some back matter that kind of goes into explaining what the stories are that we don't have in the trade paperback, just because
Mm,
when you do a hardcover collection, you want to go with everything. It's all big and beautiful, and you're kind of throwing everything in there that you can. You want to keep the cost down for everybody on a trade paperback, and so that's really what the point of that was. But you can get. Yeah, I'm a huge advocate of read comics how you read comics. If you like stuff in floppies, do floppies. If you like stuff in collected editions, do collected editions. If you're a digital person, go with digital. Like do whatever you want to do. But I try to get everything out there, as many options as possible.
right on. You just reminded me of the back matter, and I hadn't said anything about that, but it's funny when I was doing show prep for this. I was thinking of the questions I was going to ask you, and then I got to the back matter. I was like, he asked himself all these questions. You did a funny little interview of yourself where you were kind of antagonizing yourself with a character, asking the questions and things, and it was fantastic. But I was like, well, he's already got it in there. But if that doesn't come in the trade paperback, so that's a benefit of getting the hardcover. And I think in the back of the hardcover, you also go through each story and talk about the feelings you're having and how it ties into your experience from COVID, which I think is another connection that you make with your readers, because you can read the stories and just appreciate it for that, or you can sit there and get into the mind of the man and figure out what was going on contextually at that time.
Right, right. You know, um, I don't know. I I don't think. Look, this is it's a rare experience to be able to do this. Only in comics do you get to take a year of your life and you know tell these little vignette stories that help you through a tough time, and then put them out there and share them with people. It's been absolutely amazing.
Right on. Well, I'm getting the high sign here from our producer. I want to thank Jeremy Hahn for coming in today and sharing with us about the new book. It comes out, like I said, on May 3rd for $17 from Image Comics. Thank you so much.
Thank you.